Imagine waking up on a morning when everything seems impossibly lucid, yet profoundly hollow. You're caught in the grip of a paradox so profound it gnaws at the edges of your mind. You possess more knowledge, more access to information, more cognitive tools than any generation before yours, and yet the world feels unbearably empty. Your thoughts race, algorithms pulse behind your eyes, synapses fire with relentless precision, but the spaces between these flashes of insight are cavernous and unyielding. How can the brightest minds, the sharpest intellects, the most keenly aware individuals be swallowed by a suffocating void that no amount of reasoning can fill? Imagine further. You inhabit a society that praises intelligence as the highest virtue, where problem-solving is king, where critical thinking is supposed to be the path to meaning and fulfillment. And yet, despite this societal elevation of intellect, you find yourself adrift, disconnected from the very things you crave. A sense of purpose, a feeling of belonging, a warmth that transcends cold logic. Why does your expansive mind only seem to highlight the absence of something essential, something not found in data sets or philosophy books, not measured by IQ tests or technical skill? This is the unsettling enigma of the modern intelligent individual. The world around you is noisier, faster, and more complex than ever before, yet many who comprehend it most deeply report a profound desolation beneath the surface of their intellect. What accounts for this strange disconnect? Is it a failure of society to nurture intellect, or a failure of intellect to nourish the spirit? Is it that wisdom doesn't equate to happiness? Or is the very architecture of modern life, its relentless acceleration, its commodification of knowledge, its shallow social media affirmations, eroding the foundations on which meaningful human experience once rested? Perhaps it is easier to look at the problem through the lens of contradiction. In a world where information is limitless, why does confusion reign? In an era that glorifies innovation and progress, why do you feel a gnawing stagnation internally? Intelligence, once a beacon of light leading toward clarity and achievement, can feel like a labyrinth leading nowhere, with every insight shadowed by a haunting question. What's the use of all this knowing if it doesn't translate into deeper satisfaction or connection? Your mind might respond, I should feel fulfilled, I understand more than most, I see the patterns others miss, I can solve life's puzzles with relative ease. But therein lies the paradox. The more you see, the more you realize how much remains unseen. The more you know, the more you question the frameworks that supposedly steer society. The more you solve, the more you encounter problems that defy resolution or transcend reason entirely. This cognitive surplus becomes a double-edged sword. You are gifted with insights, yet cursed with awareness of their limits. You can critique the world's madness, but you cannot easily escape it. You observe the chaos from the inside, and the chaos becomes a mirror reflecting your own inner unrest. This is not mere melancholy or a passing existential crisis. It is a gnawing emptiness that infiltrates the very core of your being, an emptiness that no amount of intellectual exercise can dispel. Like an itch beneath your skin, it demands attention. Like an echo in a vast, empty cathedral, it reverberates endlessly. What is the source of this dissatisfaction? Is it that the very tools of intelligence, analysis, skepticism, detachment, are maladapted to the needs of the soul? Could it be that modern society, with its hyper-rational structures, inadvertently starves the emotional and existential dimensions of human life? Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly understood, not in an intellectual sense, but in a visceral, emotional way? When did a conversation transcend surface-level exchange and reach into the depths of shared human experience? When were you free from the compulsion to overanalyze, to deconstruct, to second-guess your feelings? If you struggle to recall moments like these, you are not alone. The loneliness of the intelligent is often concealed by the very brilliance that isolates them. Intelligence can act like a prism, refracting social interactions into fragmented, detached components, depriving them of warmth and cohesion. And what of connection? You might live in a world that is more connected digitally than ever, but connectivity in bytes and likes is not the same as real, nourishing human presence. The more your mind comprehends virtual networks, algorithms, and data streams, the more it may sense the absence of tangible intimacy. Is it any wonder, then, that the trappings of modern life, social media validation, endless information consumption, often feel like hollow substitutes for genuine belonging? Moreover, the modern ideal of success for the intelligent is often framed by achievement, productivity, and measurable results. It celebrates the mind's capacity to manipulate reality to its advantage rather than its ability to embrace mystery, ambiguity, or the ineffable. But what happens when life's richest experiences elude measurement? When love, beauty, transcendence, and meaning refuse to be reduced to formulas or outcomes? Here lies the knife edge on which many brilliant minds precariously balance. Intelligence illuminates the known world brilliantly, but casts long shadows on those aspects of existence that defy reduction. As you wrestle with these questions, you might wonder, is emptiness the inevitable companion of intelligence in the modern age? Is this feeling a symptom of a deeper cultural malaise, or an intrinsic feature of cognitive brilliance itself? Does modern society's relentless emphasis on technology, rationality, and efficiency crowd out the slow, chaotic, and imprecise processes that foster true fulfillment? More urgently, how might one break free from this emptiness without abandoning the very faculties that define your identity? Such questions do not yield easy answers. They beckon you toward a terrain where philosophy, psychology, and existential reflection intertwine, a terrain both exhilarating and unnerving. For to confront why smart people feel empty in modern society is to confront not just a social phenomenon, but the most intimate territories of consciousness and selfhood. And so you find yourself at the threshold of understanding, gazing into the void that intelligence reveals. This is the beginning of a journey that demands unflinching honesty, acute self-awareness, and perhaps a willingness to redefine what it means to be smart in a world that no longer honors the fullness of human experience. What follows is an exploration not just of emptiness, but of the paradoxical nature of intelligence itself, and the subtle ways modern society both elevates and alienates those who think too deeply. Step forward, if you dare, into the labyrinth where knowledge meets longing, and insight confronts the aching silence beneath it. The darkness ahead is thick, but within it lies the possibility of a new kind of illumination. You stand in the echo chamber of your mind, where every thought ricochets with crystalline clarity, yet the silence that follows feels deafening. Why does this sharpness, this brilliance, cast a shadow so profound? Psychology, philosophy, and the relentless dynamism of modern society conspire to answer, yet their revelations bring no comfort. Instead, they unravel you further, revealing an intricate lattice of forces that suffocate as much as they illuminate. Carl Jung once spoke of the shadow, the unconscious reservoir of hidden desires, fears, and the parts of ourselves we refuse to integrate. To the intelligent mind, this shadow is not a vague darkness lurking at the edges, but an unavoidable chasm yawning wide beneath the veneer of rationality. Your intellect drills deep, exposing contradictions and complexities that remain invisible to others, but in doing so, it forces you to confront aspects of yourself society teaches you to suppress. The more you dissect reality with your mind's scalpel, the more you perceive the fractures in your own psyche. Yet modern culture, with its relentless demand for productivity and polished personas, offers no space for wrestling openly with this shadow. Instead, it compels you to hide it, to perform, to excel, while the emptiness festers unseen. Friedrich Nietzsche's prophecy echoes with eerie precision here. The death of God, the collapse of absolute values, and the rise of nihilism. If meaning once anchored existence, tethering suffering to a grand narrative, its absence leaves you adrift. Your intelligence sharpens this absence into a blade that cuts deeper than most can endure. You grasp the contingency of morality, the arbitrariness of social constructs, the fragility of truth itself. This dissolution of meaning is not merely an intellectual realization, it is a visceral wound. Nietzsche warned that the abyss gazed also into those who stare too long. The wise mind feels compelled to create values, to impose order on chaos, yet the overwhelming arbitrariness of this task breeds exhaustion and despair. To be smart in this age is to live amidst ruins, to be both the architect and the witness of a crumbling edifice. Arthur Schopenhauer paints a darker landscape, intelligence as a double-edged sword, where greater capacity for understanding accentuates life's inherent suffering. His concept of the will, a blind, insatiable force driving existence, reveals the ceaseless striving beneath all phenomena. The intelligent person perceives this striving in stark relief, recognizing the futility beneath desire, the inevitability of pain beneath pleasure. Such insight does not bring liberation but a piercing melancholy. Modern society, with its promises of progress and happiness through technology and consumption, offers illusions that quickly dissolve under the scrutiny of your mind. The relentless pursuit of more knowledge, more success, more speed, only magnifies the dissatisfaction because it never addresses the core will's hunger. You become trapped in a Sisyphean cycle, more aware of the rock's weight but no closer to rest. Aldous Huxley foresaw a world anesthetized by distraction, where the soul is drowned in an ocean of noise and superficial pleasures. The intelligent mind, craving depth and authenticity, finds itself suffocating beneath layers of triviality. You sense this existential numbness in the curated screens, the endless streams of information that promise enlightenment but deliver fragmentation. Your awareness slices through these illusions, exposing the void beneath the spectacle. Yet this very awareness exacerbates the sense of isolation, for you see what others ignore or willingly forget. The paradox here is brutal. The sharper your perception, the more alienated you become from the collective trance. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism places the burden squarely on your shoulders. In a world without predetermined purpose, you are condemned to freedom. Freedom here is no joyous release, but a crushing responsibility to forge meaning in a vacuum. The intelligent mind wrestles fiercely with this freedom, understanding the limitless possibilities yet terrified of the contingency of choice. Each decision feels both a liberation and a condemnation, a declaration of who you are and who you might never be. This existential angst gnaws at the core of your being, deepening the emptiness beneath every achievement and accolade. Society's prescribed roles and definitions of success feel like cages, yet stepping outside them exposes you to the vertigo of nothingness. Viktor Frankl, who endured the abyss of Auschwitz, recognized that the search for meaning is the primary human drive. However, the intelligent individual often finds this search complicated by heightened awareness of life's absurdities and contradictions. The modern environment, with its hyper-rationality and commodification of experience, frequently undermines this search by reducing meaning to metrics, productivity, or status symbols. The deeper longing for transcendence or authenticity is rendered nearly invisible, a whisper drowned beneath the roar of progress. The more you try to find meaning, the clearer it becomes how precarious and fragile it is, like a candle flickering in a storm. What unites these perspectives is a recognition that intelligence is not a shield against emptiness, but often an amplifier of it. Your mind's capacity to perceive complexity, ambiguity, and contradiction isolates you from the comforting certainties others accept or avoid. Modern society, obsessed with efficiency, speed, and surface, systematically erodes the slow, uncertain, and often painful processes necessary for genuine self-understanding and fulfillment. The cultural narrative prizes the acquisition of knowledge and success, but rarely invites you to wrestle with the existential costs being exacted. As you walk through this terrain, you notice how these hidden forces shape not only your inner world but your outward behaviors. The urge to overachieve becomes a frantic attempt to fill the void, while moments of quiet reflection threaten to spiral into despair. Social interactions may feel performative, relationships strained by a gulf of unspoken tensions. The self, fragmented by relentless scrutiny and societal pressures, loses coherence. Emotions, once vibrant and guiding, become muted or overwhelming in turn, oscillating between numbness and anxiety. And yet, these are not mere personal failings or transient moods, but symptoms of a profound cultural and psychological crisis. The tension between intelligence and emptiness is a silent epidemic, a fissure running beneath the surface of modern life. It calls into question what it means to be fulfilled, to be connected, to be human in an era that prizes knowledge but denies the soul. But what lies beyond this tension? Is there a way to transcend or transform this emptiness, or is it an intrinsic shadow cast by the very light of intelligence? As the weight of these questions presses down, you feel the stirrings of an even deeper mystery, one that will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world you inhabit. The journey ahead is neither linear nor certain. It demands that you look deeper, past the flickering images of success and intellect, into the silent spaces where meaning, identity, and longing converge and fracture. Only there might you glimpse the possibility of healing, not through denial or escape, but through confrontation and integration. But before that, you must first surrender to the dark gravity of the problem itself, acknowledging that what you face is more than mere emptiness. It is the echo of a profound dissonance between a mind too aware and a world too shallow. Here, in this tension, your story unfolds. You might not notice it at first, the subtle way this void insinuates itself into the architecture of your mind. It's not a loud presence but a whispering current beneath your thoughts, a ghostly force shaping your perceptions, your decisions, your very sense of self. You think you are steering your life with the clarity of reason, that your intellect is your compass through the labyrinth. Yet the labyrinth itself is designed to ensnare the most agile minds. The first trap is the uncanny power of cognitive bias, that invisible puppeteer behind your every judgment. You imagine your intelligence shields you from error, but in truth, it often sharpens the very distortions that pull you deeper into the void. Take the confirmation bias, for instance, a quietly ruthless mechanism that lures you to cling to information that fits your existing worldview, dismissing the discordant as irrelevant or wrong. This isn't just a flaw in how you process facts. It's a defense mechanism that shields you from the discomfort of uncertainty. But paradoxically, in a world drowning in information, this protective reflex narrows your vision, building walls that isolate you from alternative perspectives and genuine connection. Your mind, trained to seek coherence, settles into patterns that make you feel smarter but leave you lonelier. Neurology offers no comfort here. The brain thrives on reward signals, small bursts of dopamine that reinforce behaviors and beliefs. In modern society, these rewards are hijacked. Social media likes, intellectual validation in echo chambers, the rapid-fire nature of digital knowledge. It all floods your nervous system with quick, addictive hits of satisfaction. Yet these hits are shallow, transient. They don't build meaning, they erode it. They teach your brain to crave noise over silence, quantity over quality, stimulation over introspection. Every notification is a call to distraction, each a small exile from the profound. But the neurological mechanisms don't operate in a vacuum. Cultural conditioning saturates this entire dynamic, embedding these patterns into the fabric of your reality. Imagine a society that equates worth with measurable output, grades, test scores, job titles, productivity metrics. A society that heralds knowledge as the pinnacle of achievement but sidelines wisdom as quaint or impractical. Here, intelligence is commodified, reduced to currency rather than a vehicle of understanding or self-discovery. You grow up absorbing messages that your value depends on your cognitive accomplishments, that emotion is a liability, and that vulnerability signals weakness. This conditioning is not merely external, it seeps inside, shaping your inner dialogue. You become a relentless taskmaster, a critic scanning your mind for gaps of knowledge, errors in reasoning, lapses of efficiency. The result is a constant self-surveillance that fractures the psyche. Instead of resting in the flow of experience, you become alienated from it. Your mind a battleground where expectations clash with desires, intellect wars with emotion, presence is eclipsed by abstraction. And the societal implications are no less profound. When large swaths of people feel this emptiness, masked often by achievement and outward success, communities fracture. Conversations become superficial, relationships transactional. Empathy atrophies because it requires vulnerability, a currency in short supply when survival demands armor. Collective life becomes a series of mirroring performances, each person projecting competence while privately wrestling with existential hollowness. The irony is exquisite and cruel. Your intelligence, the very tool designed to help you make sense of the world, becomes your prison guard. It equips you with the ability to dissect and analyze endlessly, yet it offers no manual for how to feel, how to belong, how to heal. Each new fact uncovered, each insight gained, becomes another brick in the wall that separates you from the richness of lived experience. Can you feel the gravity of this entrapment? It is a slow, insidious erosion, like water wearing down stone, almost imperceptible until the shape of your inner world has been irrevocably altered. This is the silent crisis shaping your reality and the collective one, as if humanity's brightest minds are caught in a net woven from their own brilliance, unable to break free because the strands are made from the very thoughts that give them power. You might wonder if escape is even possible. After all, this is no simple habit or cultural trend. It's a systemic feedback loop involving mind, brain, and society, all reinforcing the same emptiness. To break it requires more than effort. It demands awareness born of courage, a willingness to confront not just the symptoms but the root causes of the void. But here's the most urgent question you must wrestle with. What if the emptiness you feel is not a problem to be fixed by accumulating more knowledge or achievements? What if it is a signal, one that points toward a deeper dimension of your existence that your intellect alone cannot reach? What would it take to heed this signal, to listen beneath the noise, to descend into the silence where the usual measures of intelligence are useless, and something else begins to stir? The trap is clear, the stakes high, and yet the path forward remains obscured. In this twilight zone between brilliance and void, you stand at the threshold of a revelation that could transform not only how you live, but how you understand what it means to truly be alive. You do not yet know what awaits on the other side of this dissonance, but you sense it must be different from the familiar patterns of emptiness and intellectual pride. You sense that what lies ahead is both terrifying and hopeful, a rupture in the endless cycle of knowing without feeling, a doorway to something profoundly new. But before that door can open, you must linger a while longer in the shadow of the mind's cage, holding the tension tight, refusing to look away. Only by fully inhabiting this silent trap can you summon the strength to break free. The journey has deepened. The void calls not just to be understood, but to be faced, and that is a different kind of intelligence altogether. What if everything you've been told about intelligence, success, and fulfillment has been a lie? What if the very tools you wield, the sharpness of your mind, the clarity of your logic, the relentless pursuit of answers, are the shackles binding you to this spectral emptiness? This is no mere discomfort or fleeting sadness. It is a deep structural fracture inside the architecture of your being. Revolt by parts of yourself you never learned to recognize. To break free, you must embrace a truth so counterintuitive it will seem like a betrayal at first. The emptiness you feel is not a deficiency of intellect, but a starvation of a different kind of wisdom. Imagine standing in a room lined with mirrors, each reflecting a different facet of your intellect, a different achievement, a different validation. Yet, no matter how many reflections you gaze into, you find no one truly there, only infinite fragments of the self, shattered and confined. Here lies the paradox. What if your brilliance has actually obscured your vision, narrowing your world to patterns, data, and outcomes, while the richness of existence, the messy, chaotic, unpredictable heart of life, slips silently through your grasp? What if knowledge, instead of unlocking freedom, has become a cage? History whispers this secret in the shadows of its greatest minds and rebels. Consider the Stoics, those ancient philosophers who carried immense wisdom, yet understood that true peace was not born from intellectual conquest, but from surrender, an acceptance of what cannot be controlled, an embrace of the present moment in all its raw and unfiltered reality. Marcus Aurelius, burdened with the weight of empire and intellect, found solace not in mastering facts, but in mastering himself, the tumult of his inner life that no volume of knowledge could tame. Or look to the Renaissance figure Michel de Montaigne, who questioned the notion of certainty itself, embracing doubt and imperfection not as failures but as gateways to deeper understanding. His skepticism was not a paralysis but a liberation, a refusal to be trapped by the arrogance of knowing. Montaigne teaches you that to escape the void, you must first relinquish the throne your intellect demands. These are not quaint historical anecdotes, detached from the modern avalanche of social media, performance metrics, or 24/7 connectivity. They are blueprints, radical shifts in consciousness that beckon from the ruins of conventional thinking, urging you to rebuild from the ground up. The solution is not more data points, more analysis, or more achievements. It is a revolution in how you relate to yourself and the world. Begin with a simple but shattering act. Surrender your need to solve the puzzle of your emptiness with the same mental tools that created it. Instead, cultivate the ability to be present with the discomfort, to feel the hollowness without rushing in to fill it. This is not passivity but a radical form of active insight, knowing to hold space for silence, to allow the invisible to emerge. Shift your mindset from accumulation to presence. Instead of racing toward future goals as if they alone might redeem you, anchor yourself in the texture of your experience. What sensations ripple beneath your skin? What shadows linger in your thoughts when the noise subsides? This attentiveness is a form of intelligence that refuses to be measured by tests or rankings. It is an intelligence that recognizes the vast, uncharted territories within you, territories that your brightest ideas have only grazed, never truly inhabited. Now, imagine reclaiming control not by mastering the outer world, but by cultivating mastery over your internal landscape. This is a power that no algorithm can usurp, no social comparison can diminish. It is a sovereignty born of self-acceptance and curiosity, a willingness to explore the dark corners of your psyche with courage rather than fear. The great innovators and philosophers who have transcended emptiness share one defining trait: they embraced paradox. They lived with questions that have no neat answers, danced with contradictions that defied resolution. Albert Einstein famously said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." But Einstein's genius was not simply intellectual, it was emotional and existential. He was comfortable inhabiting uncertainty, letting it become fertile ground rather than barren wasteland. This is your invitation to a new way of thinking, one that values questions over answers, presence over productivity, and depth over breadth. It requires dismantling the cultural idol of relentless achievement and replacing it with the quieter God of self-awareness. Here, the void is no longer a threat but a signal, a compass pointing toward growth, healing, and transformation. But how do you begin? How do you step off the well-worn path of endless knowing and into the untamed wilderness of not knowing? The first step is paradoxical. Embrace your limits. Recognize that your intellect, as magnificent as it is, has boundaries, that your worth is not contained in what you understand but in your capacity to exist beyond understanding. To admit this is not defeat, but a declaration of freedom. Then cultivate practices that redirect your awareness inward: meditation, contemplative reading, creative expression, or simply moments of silence without distraction. These are not escapes from reality, but entrances into a deeper engagement with reality itself. As you do, you begin to feel a shift. The dissonance between your intellect and experience softens, and the emptiness starts to give way to something else: a profound presence, a sense of belonging to the ever-unfolding mystery of life. This shift is not easy, nor is it quick. It requires courage to face the void without fleeing into the comfort of certainty or distraction. It demands humility to admit that you do not have all the answers and that perhaps some questions are not meant to be answered. Yet in this surrender lies your power, the power to create a new relationship with yourself and the world, one that transcends the lonely triumph of the intellect and embraces the full spectrum of human experience. As you stand at this crossroads, know that you are not alone. Those who have walked this path before you, a path of paradox, presence, and profound transformation, offer a map written not in words but in lived experience. Their lives are testimonies to a truth that modern society has obscured: that intelligence divorced from wisdom is a hollow fire, a brilliant light with no warmth. You are discovering something revolutionary, not just a way to feel less empty, but a way to be radically whole. In reclaiming control over your internal world, you ignite a spark that no external measure can extinguish. This is the beginning of a new story, one where emptiness is not the end but the threshold to a deeper life, where your intelligence is a servant to your soul, not its master. This moment, precarious and precious, is your invitation to step through the door you glimpsed earlier, to break free from the cage of the mind and embrace the vast, untamed landscape beyond, to build not just a new way of thinking, but a new way of being. You've wandered through the labyrinth of your mind, chasing answers like a moth drawn to a flickering flame, only to find that the flame burns not outward but inward, illuminating shadows where clarity once seemed promised. What if everything you believed about intelligence, meaning, and fulfillment was just a fragment of a far greater, more daunting puzzle? What if the emptiness gnawing at your core is not a defect, a failure of your intellect, nor a flaw in modern society, but an invitation, an unseen door creaking open to a reality so vast and unsettling that it demands you rethink the very fabric of existence? Imagine for a moment that intelligence, the sharpness of your mind, your relentless reasoning, your brilliant insights, is not the apex of human experience, but merely the surface ripples of an ocean you have yet to plunge into. That your mind, with all its dazzling power, is like a lighthouse bright on the shore, but the world it scans is the endless, dark sea beneath. This sea is the realm of paradox, mystery, and raw existence, the place where certainty dissolves, and the questions that matter stop being questions at all and become living presences, breathing with ambiguity and tension. The emptiness you feel, then, is not a void to be filled but a space pregnant with possibility, waiting for you to stop resisting and start surrendering. You have been trained to see the world as a puzzle to be solved, a mountain to climb, a challenge to conquer. But what if this paradigm, this relentless striving for mastery, has blinded you to the profound truth that the mountain has no summit, the puzzle no final piece, and the challenge no conclusive victory? What if true wisdom lies not in conquering but in unlearning, not in accumulation but in release? Your emptiness is the echo of a deeper realization, that the life you sought to design, measure, and control exists only in the fragile architecture of your thoughts, Beyond this architecture stretches something immeasurable and wild, indifferent to your logic yet inviting you to inhabit it fully. This is the paradox that fractures the minds of the smart and restless souls in modern society. The more you illuminate, the more the darkness expands. The more you seek certainty, the more it slips through your fingers like water. Intelligence in its purest form is not a weapon, but a mirror reflecting the boundless unknown. It reveals the limits of understanding, the futility of trying to capture life in neat boxes and tidy narratives. And in that reflection, you confront a profound solitude, not the alienation of being misunderstood by others, but the isolation of standing naked before the infinite, stripped of the comforting scaffolds your mind once built. Yet this solitude is not a curse, it is a clearing. It is the space where the old story dies and the new can be born, not a story of achievement or recognition, but one of being. In this space, the frantic dialogue in your head ceases and you hear the silence behind thought, a silence that is not empty but full of presence, potential, and life itself. It is here that you begin to see that emptiness is not the absence of meaning, but the fertile soil from which meaning arises, contingent and fluid, shaped by the very mystery you once feared. Consider this. Perhaps the modern world's obsession with progress, efficiency, and measurable success has not liberated you, but shackled you to a phantom called purpose. A purpose defined externally and imposed upon your inner landscape. This external purpose is a counterfeit, a mask that obscures the deeper calling to simply exist, to feel, to be vulnerable and real without the armor of intellect or achievement. The emptiness is the signpost pointing to this call, a call to wake up from the trance of endless doing and recognize that your life's deepest significance is not what you produce, prove, or understand, but how you engage with the raw, untamed mystery of existence. This realization demands radical honesty. It asks you to dismantle the fortress of your self-image, to confront the parts of you that cling to certainty, control, and intellectual pride. It challenges you to embrace your limitations, your fears, your contradictions, not as weaknesses, but as the very texture of what it means to be human. Intelligence alone cannot carry this burden. It requires courage, vulnerability, and a humility so profound it feels like surrender. But in this surrender, paradoxically, you find freedom, the freedom to be fully alive in an incomprehensible world. And here lies the deepest revelation. The emptiness is not something to escape, fill, or fix. It is what remains when you stop running from yourself, when you stop using your intellect as a shield, and when you allow the full spectrum of your humanity to unfold. It is the space where mind and soul meet, where thinking and being entwine in an ancient dance. This is the frontier beyond intelligence, beyond society's definitions, beyond the narratives you've been handed, the place where you become not just smart, but wise, not just known, but intimately connected to the vastness you inhabit. So, what will you do with this revelation? Will you retreat back into the comforting noise of distraction and certainty, or will you dare to step into the vast unknown that emptiness reveals? Will you cling to the identity of the smart person, as defined by achievement and knowledge, or are you ready to let that identity fall away and meet yourself in a raw, uncharted form? This is no abstract choice, but a visceral, immediate one, made every morning when you open your eyes and feel the hollow ache inside. In that ache lies an invitation, a summons to awaken, to live not as a being who knows, but as one who experiences, not as a mind that conquers, but as a presence that listens, not as a soul that strategizes, but as a heart that breathes with the rhythms of uncertainty. This is not a defeat, but a victory, a reclaiming of the profound mystery that modern society, with all its brilliance and noise, has tried to mute. As the shadows lengthen and you stand at the edge of this new understanding, know that you are part of an ancient lineage of seekers and wanderers who have grappled with emptiness and found in it a doorway. It is a doorway without a key, because it opens not with force but with willingness. The willingness to embrace the paradox of your existence, brilliant yet vulnerable, knowing yet not knowing, filled and empty all at once. Let this paradox haunt you, not as a torment but as a pulse, a living reminder that you are alive, complex, and unfinished. Let it inspire you to break free from the cages of prescribed meaning and step into the wild terrain of authentic being. Here, in the fertile void, you may finally glimpse the truth that transforms emptiness from a silent abyss into a resonant song. And in that song, your spirit finds its true voice. This is the revolution you are called to lead, not in the world outside, but within the vast, uncharted landscape of your own being. Will you answer?